Hello there, I'm JP.
Hello there. I'm WH Park.
How are you, mate? How do we find you today?
I'm okay. I went out last night to watch the Rebellion pay-per-view from Impact Wrestling at the Rebel Entertainment Complex down at the harbor front of downtown Toronto. Really odd location because one, there's a lot of construction in the area, so they're
Right.
really tearing down the kind of old image of that area, which was like kind of like factories, warehouses, and like ports. So like a lot of big cargo ships would come in there. Not anymore. I think they're turning it all into condos. Which
I was going to say
yeah,
gentrification of major cities yet again.
I mean, this is an ongoing thing here in Toronto for the last 25 years, I think. And I'm not a big fan of it, to be quite honest with you, because none of it's affordable housing. It's all
No.
like overpriced shit that no one can afford, and like I think we do have a serious housing crisis in this city and in this province as a whole. So
It's the same here. There is no affordable housing anywhere, and wages haven't gone up nearly in relation to it.
But so like I went to this place. It's my first time going to an Impact show, two going to the Rebel Entertainment Complex. We'll just call it Rebel. So I go to Rebel, and I get, we're waiting to get into the show. There's a lineup. I got there like pretty early, like maybe an hour before doors open, just because I thought maybe I want to get a seat because I had general admission seats ticket. So that means like it's first come first serve for seating, like in the general admission, which most of it was general admission, which I don't understand. Like you should have just made it all reserved, and then you could have made more money. Like someone sitting fourth from the ringside is paying the same as someone who's standing, or someone who is like seventh from ringside. Do you know what I mean? So like, why don't you just make it tiered payment and reserved, and then you could just make more money? I don't. Anyways, leaving money on the table seems like a very Impact thing to do.
I was going to say Impact's going to impact, isn't it? Or Impact's going to TNA.
Yeah. So, but security, easy. Actually, very polite. 2 bars. And I'm like, wow, this is like the complete opposite of what you hear, the horror stories I hear about York Holland going to see Rev Pro there. So I was just like, I thought of you, JP, when I had an easy time. And then the venue looks really nice.
Looks great on TV.
Yeah. I was really impressed with the venue. I thought this looks, production wise, it looks really great. I don't like just flat floor seating though, because I'm not a very tall person. So I cannot, it's very hard for me to see when I'm sitting at wrestling shows, like unless I'm at Cork and Hall, which is the greatest place ever to watch wrestling. And they're not assholes there either when you go in, unlike the security at Rev Pro at York Hall, apparently. So
apparently been replaced. Like fingers crossed.
I look forward to your report or Benno's report about that. So,
how many people were there, do you reckon?
I think it was capacity. Like, so they had a balcony, which was standing room only.
Okay.
And then I was sitting, and then there was like a lot of people standing around me, and it was funny by the end of the night, like a bunch of people were sitting on the bar on one side of the ring.
Okay.
They stopped serving, I guess, at that bar, and a lot of the fans were just sitting on the bar. I was like, huh, okay. The washroom's really nice. There's a lot of like stalls. So I was like, damn, like I don't have to wait to take a piss. Great. Awesome.
You're cool, by the way, in the men's 3 stalls.
Oh, no. This is like fucking 25 or something like that. Maybe it's a lot. Yeah, I was like, that's my fear of like, I hate waiting in line to use the washroom. So I'm like, and I'm a stall person. I don't care what business you have to do. I'm a stall person. I'm very self-conscious and about like doing your business, So like, anyways, enough of that. So it's really nice, a really nice place, and the staff are really nice, So I can't complain about this. This is like, wow, this is the anti-York Hall. This place. That was my big impression about it. I think you would probably like it, JP. You could get a proper drink easily there.
I've Googled it properly before. I mean, when you said about the 2 bars and everything else, it's just like the entire experience is catered for people to enjoy themselves as opposed to York Hall. where it's just like this is your punishment for going to watch wrestling. Is that it's just like we're going to give you the worst service in the world for it. But it looked like I've watched it today. I mean, as a show, did you enjoy it? Did you think it was?
Like I said, I couldn't see a lot of it clearly. I think a lot of it was good. I'm very tempted to go back and just watch the video of it, um, and see. Like I thought the Ultimate X match for the tag titles was good. I thought the X Division match, from what I saw, was good, and the knockouts. I thought the main event, the knockouts title match, was a little. I don't know. I think they peaked with the audience with the match I was least looking forward to, which turned out to be, it was okay. It was the Tommy Dreamer versus Bully Ray hardcore match with their teammates. That stuff I think they should just eliminate from their product, in the sense, like, I think you should forge an identity of being a place where you're not being cast-offs from other companies and people just collect. I feel like those guys just collect a paycheck, to be honest with you. At this point, they don't really contribute much to the wrestling industry. But like, if you focus more on the knockouts and the X Division and maybe a really strong tag scene, like, I think you could have something that differentiates you from AEW and the WWE, and just be a place where people who can't find their place in those places but are talented can work and make a living. I think, and just run Canada as much as you can, because, like, apparently they especially here in Ontario, they love Ontario, apparently, because, like, they're running like 3 more big shows here and TV taping. So just change Impact to call it just All Canada Pro Wrestling, ACPW.
Were the Aspens there who own the company? I think there was like one of them from what's the name of the company that owns
Anthem.
Yeah,
I have no idea who is, if they were or not. Like, Nick Aldis was there. Looking very smart. I was like, are you going to, like, what is it, the Queen's Derby, like the horse race that Queen Elizabeth used to go to a lot?
It would be, well, there was the Grand National that was last week, but the one that she would go to is like it'd be Royal Ascot and stuff like that.
He looked like he was going to that, the way he was dressed, very smartly dressed. Nick Aldis,
he always does, doesn't he?
Yeah,
he's perfect for there. I'll be talking about all of this on Spotlight tonight for it, but it's one of the things that I think, like, I would agree with you. It's like, it's the place where the people who need to be there are people who are trying to, like, kind of effectively find themselves, and you just find a niche, and it may not work at a bigger company, and this may be the level for them. But
a lot of Canadians, Speedball, Mike Bailey, Josh Alexander, I think great place for you to work. I think get lost in the shuffle river and Tony Land, Vince Land.
Lot of talent in Canada that just falls through the cracks. Because there isn't, like, and I always think that's a big thing. But no, I'm glad you enjoyed it. It seemed to be a better experience than GCW, certainly.
For sure. I was sitting with John Pollock, the whole night. Like, I got.
Well, he needed to see.
What the funny thing is? I don't know if he'll talk about this, but, like, I don't think I'm revealing anything. But, like, I got there earlier, and then he's like messaging me. I just parked where, like, I'm actually just in the line, like, closer to the entrance, and he's like, he found me, and then he said to security, like, oh, I have press credentials, and they're like, you got to get back in the line. they couldn't even get him. Like, this is, like, to me, it's amateur hour. You couldn't even, like, designate, like, a seat for press. Like, so he sat with me in GA. So it's a GA, and then he couldn't even get in earlier than everyone else to, like, he's press. He's covering this. He's giving you fucking free publicity, man. Like, why are you?
He'd want to interview. He'd want to maybe speak to DeMore and stuff like that.
Why are you treating him like the rest of us plebeians, here in this crowd? I will say this. I am not a huge fan of my fellow Torontonians as wrestling fans, because a lot of them are absolute fucking mouth breathers, and fuck, they are so fucking stupid, some of them. Like, this one guy behind me, he's just fucking yelling all fucking night. Like, he was saying some of the stupidest things ever. So he was telling the Motor City Machine Guns, he was telling Chris Bay and Ace Austin to send Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley to the retirement home. And I'm like, I was just looking at John. I was like, I don't think they're that old. I think they're, like, in their 30s still. Like, what the hell?
Jesus Christ.
And then whenever Bully Ray was gonna like do something to, I think, Killer Kelly in the multi-person match,
Oh yeah.
this guy freaked out. He goes, "Stop picking on a woman." It's like, I'm pretty sure she can take care of herself, pal. Like, I bet you he could. And he like, I think he stood up. I didn't look back, but it felt like he stood up. He said, "Pick on me," and I was just like, look at John. I would love to see that. Bully Ray came over here and slapped the
The
shit
one
out of
time
this
you'd be cheering like Bully Ray.
guy. Yeah, if he
Is he-
like busted open this idiot behind me, like, oh god. You know, here's the thing: wrestling fans will be wrestling fans regardless of where you're from. You're always gonna have to
Yes.
do this. And it wasn't really. I didn't hate the guy. I was just like, he was kind of irritating, but he provided a lot of like looking over at me and John looking at each other, just like shaking our heads, which was kind of entertaining in and of itself. So there you go.
It sounds like a fun night.
Yeah.
Like, I think you it looked good on the TV. Like I say, I'll be like going into like a kind of review of the show. A lot of it I kind of had on more or less while I was
Please
doing
give my review
Clean.
of the venue itself, which is
I will do, because anytime you Google Rebel Entertainment Complex Toronto, it just comes up and go, why is there nothing like this anywhere? Not in, like in London, like nothing that looks like that. Where you think, well, maybe a company could run there. Like, no chance of that. But yeah, no, I'm glad you enjoyed. Maybe they're in Ontario now. You might become a semi-regular for some of these things. You know,
they would have to like start bringing bleachers for like level, you know, like tiered seating, so like I could actually fucking see the ring.
Then the one venue you would have loved, and they don't run it anymore, but the cockpit, where the theater,
Right.
which was like I said, them like it was like a tiny miniature Budokan or like sumo hall, because it was just like a ring and then like 5 like sort of rows going up, just like around it in a box. So there was no one had bad views at all. You wouldn't be able to see like on the floor on the other side of the ring, obviously, but it was like it was just perfect for the kind of intimacy stuff.
I just think, you know, like as a wrestling company should look out for leveled seating venues, or do something to alleviate like just flat floor seating, which I think is horrible for wrestling. I just think it's not fun for most of the fans watching, especially kids. I don't think kids can enjoy like flat floor seating. Like they have to stand on their chairs, they have to obscure the view of other people, which is not cool. Like, you know, but do I want to pay money? Like, and I actually paid for this show. I didn't get comped or anything. I paid for this show. It was like $35 with fees. So not bad actually.
Yeah,
but
sounds all
but
right.
do I want to pay that again for like having an obscured vision? No, I just, you know what? I'll just if I have to, I'll order the pay-per-view, or I'll just, you know, fucking, you know, well, you know, we'll or something else, right? So I won't say anything more than that.
Wow. We're talking about all about like sort of the bright lights of the Rebel Entertainment Complex.
Yes.
Well, it leads us into the very start of the episode that we're going to be recapping today. Chapter 23, The Spies. In the beginning of that, because there's another place that likes spending money on its electricity bill, and that's Coruscant.
Oh, fuck.
Which is, yeah.
In rainy Coruscant in the lower levels. Maybe we were on the fabled level 1313. That was a reference to a video game that was supposed to happen before the Disney buyout, which is going to start a young Boba Fett in the underworld of Coruscant. I think I was also like, there's going to be. You ever hear about Star Wars Underworld, JP?
I did hear about it. Yeah,
it was going to be created. It was going to be showrun by Ronald D. Moore, who created Battlestar Galactica, the reboot, which was one of the greatest science fiction shows of the last 30 years, let's say. And I thought, oh, fuck. But that, again, the Disney purchase happened and they scrapped all that, put it on hiatus. And George was like, okay, you don't want to do any of my ideas. You scrapped my sequel trilogy ideas too. So, which in hindsight, maybe they should have just gone with George's ideas. Maybe, who knows? But this, when this opened, I was just like, did really Scott direct this? Because it looked even more Blade Runner-ish than the episode prior.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and what we have here is we've got, well, us finding out what we already suspected. One of the things that Elia Kane is, in fact, she's having a holo conversation with Moff Gideon, and she explains what about the pirates not being able to take Navarro. So you realise, oh, okay, Moff Gideon is then behind that. In there, doesn't I'm very unhappy about hearing about the Mandalorian factions not getting along. So he says he'll deal with that while Kane's going to continue her mission on there. And at which point, then Gideon walks in to join a hollow meeting of the people where I'm sat in here today, the meeting of the Shadow Council. What were your thoughts on this? There's obviously a very big reveal.
Yeah, so I went back to Coruscant. I like the fact that we saw the Imperial probe droid come down. That's her liaison.
Oh, yeah.
I guess, some people were complaining, like, how can you have that on Coruscant? You got to remember the lower levels, that is like the Wild West. It is very hard to police the lower levels of Coruscant. Like the surface level where all the rich people are, where Mon Mothma would be living, and all the senators and rich people are living. That's hard to like get away with stuff for the most part, because that's like out in public view. Down to the lower levels, there are people like they're like the Morlocks of like, H.G. Wells is like, like they're living in, that's where like, Cyril Karn and his mom kind of live, but maybe further down where it's just like fucking Los Angeles in Blade Runner. And it's just beautiful. But I just thought that was a nice touch, having an Imperial probe droid there. And I always notice like how like evil droids always have a red eye.
Yes.
They always have red eyes, which I kind of like that. I like the idea that bad, evil lightsabers are always red, and evil droids always have red eyes and stuff like that. So, and then the Shadow Council. Yeah, so I like. So this is where we get the first glimpse of the new version of what we call the Imperial Super Commandos that we see in Rebels, which you will get on board with soon enough.
Oh, yeah.
I feel. And then we see like how the level of security is all these ray shields, what they call ray shields, which we first see, and I think the Phantom Menace, when, in the Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul duel. So a super level of protection here. So each side is flanked by a pair of Imperial Super Commandos, the new generation. And then he gets into this meeting room where he's talking with different Imperial remnants, warlords, and they're all united. They just put on this pretense of like not being organized, of being like maybe fighting against one another and the such. And then we get the reveal of two characters. One who is Brendel Hux, who is the father of General Hux in the sequels trilogy, played by Domhnall Gleeson. And this character is played, I think, brilliant touch by Brian Gleeson.
Yeah.
Who is Domhnall's brother.
Recently in the Apple TV, there's a great Apple TV drama called Bad Sisters that's set in Dublin, of which he's in. And again, I love that touch. I was like, oh, this is
There's a book. I think it's the Captain Phasma book where Brendel Hux is a character in there, and the way he's described, you just envision Brendan Gleeson as our. So I think that was a nice touch. And then so they got Domhnall Gleeson's brother to play his father. So I think that was a really nice touch. And of course, the other big for long-term Star Wars fans is Captain Pellaeon, who is the right-hand man of Grand Admiral Thrawn, as we get revealed here. And I couldn't believe, like you put in the notes like that we're using, that he's played by Xander Berkeley, who is a great American character actor. But I thought he was a British character actor at first, and then it's Xander Berkeley. That's cool.
That's who I thought. I was like, for ages I couldn't recognize him. I'm kind of used to. I mean, he's one of those guys who would be in any number of films. Like, I mean, I'm just going to reel off Terminator 2, Air Force One. He was in Shanghai Noon. To even go into that.
He's in
it
this
was a great little series with him. Is it the booth at the end of the something along those lines?
He's Jack Bauer's supervisor in the first two seasons of 24.
Yes.
He's the husband of Julianne Moore in Safe, by who's it? Todd Solondz?
Todd Haynes.
Todd Haynes was great. It's a great bizarre film, by the way. Yeah, he's great. I was like, oh, cool. He gets to be. He's in Star Wars. I thought he was one of these character actors you see in like as minor characters in Game of Thrones that get migrated over to Star Wars, maybe, but he wasn't. So
No, it was phenomenal to see him, and it's set up here. What the fact a couple of very interesting things happen. Moff Gideon lying about Dr. Pershing and his research being lost in there as well. He wants 3 Praetorian guards on there. And at the same time, he questions seeing Grand Admiral Thrawn at any moment and suggesting that we need like kind of new leadership, which I think is tying us in for what we're going to be seeing next week. I think the magnitude of that. But I love this. I thought it was a great start. I thought it tied some of the things together, like just in terms of plot strands, and it made you feel like, oh, okay, this one very much like one of our complaints over the last couple of weeks is there can be a meandering nature to some of these episodes, and here it felt like they were starting off with the best foot forward, and no great surprise we get to meet Moff Gideon again in this one.
It's great. I have Giancarlo Esposito. I think he's such a what a fantastic addition he is to this cast, to the series as Moff Gideon. One of the best characters they've created from the show. One of the best like villains in Star Wars history now. Like he's done such a great job.
It's an amazing. I was thinking about this with the man. We said this about Pedro Pascal as being like the kind of hottest TV actor in the world, most famous TV actor in the world. Giancarlo Esposito being like the most famous villain in the world.
Really. Oh yeah.
Like I mean, it's an incredible, and as someone I always think to myself, like remember him watching him in the Tim Robbins directed film Bob Roberts and stuff like that, and like in these very small indie films like Fresh and stuff like that.
Like, Fresh is awesome. I love that film.
Great film. Like really like one of these films. Very not really ever been kind
for
of
me. It's like my first time ever seeing him that I can recall is like Bugging Out in Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. And he did a lot of, I think he did a lot of like Spike's early films.
Yeah.
He's one of the, like, I think him and Sam Jackson are like early Spike go-tos for being cast in his films and stuff like that. So like, that's where my exposure to Giancarlo Esposito comes from. But like, he was in this great, what's her name again? She's a great actress. It's called Rocket. It's a crime series set in like Miami, and he's like a crime boss in that. He's great in that. What's her name? She played Karen Sisko in the TV show based off the Elmore Leonard Out of Sight character. God, she's Silk Spectre, the original one in Watchmen. The mother of the more modern version. She's a good actress.
Gugino.
That's it.
Yes.
It was called Rocket, I think. It's a really good crime show. Like I think it's only like 2 or 3 seasons. I recommend it. Like I think you would like it. But he's in that. He's great in that as well. So I've never seen Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul. So I don't know the greatness of Giancarlo Esposito in
Gus Fring.
In those, but like he's legendary, right? Like people are genuinely terrified of meeting him in real life, even though it's like, no, I'm nothing like my character. I'm just an actor.
And in The Boys, which is like one of the things is like the overarching kind of like,
God, what a career this man has! Like
he really has. Like if you want to talk about like late career, I love a late career renaissance. And my God, here's someone who's kind of found that. I think there's it's one of the joys you end up having in following along here. Which actually, speaking of which, we see someone who's also had a bit of a late career revival in Carl Weathers, because we go back to Navarro. Where the Mandalorian fleet is arriving, and Bo-Katan just wants everyone to get along. But Din Djarin and Grogu visit Greef Karga. The IG-11 has now been refurbished. It's an IG-12, and it's operational with a nice little size for Grogu to sit in there, like as if he's like a kangaroo baby sat there right in the front there in the pocket, which leads to sort of like it's very toddlerish. So, like, I'm expecting for this as well, where he's saying he's too young to use it, but Grogu just keeps on hitting the no button. And then when he's like, when like so many other people, we end up breaking after one. He go, oh, all right, have a go then. And then he's like, yes.
Did this give you flashbacks to your children or
it gave me flashbacks
the young ones that you have right now?
Yeah, and the realization of it going on, it kind of goes on now to a lesser degree, but it's very much like when they're 2 to 3 years old, and it, a proper little kick off as well. There's also a really nice little, if you're looking for the cute Grogu moments of him walking along the table as one of the, and I can't remember their name, one of the little,
yes, yeah. No huggy, bad baby.
Yeah, that was it. I could hear bad baby.
I have all the time in the world for the Anzellans and like cute droids. But fuck Lizzo and fuck Jack Black. I never want to see them again. And the mods from Book of Fett. I never want to see these fucking characters ever again. And Zellans, all the time in the world.
Well, it's unfortunately there's really none of them here, because what we do get is a big Mandalorian family feast where everyone's meeting up. And at which point then Bo-Katan basically explains what her plan is, which is the Mandalorian fleet will sort of hang out above Mandalore, and she'll take down a small crew for a recon mission. So before bringing everybody back down onto the planet on there as well. The armorer volunteers to come along, which we'll refer to later on that. So you're wondering who's in charge upstairs on there. But yes, it's they go down onto Mandalore. Do you see something on there? Which is a crew of Mandalorians who've been survived on Mandalore since the Purge, and immediately offer up their support for Bo-Katan.
It's like proper Mad Max kind of feel to these guys, these surviving Mandalorians. Like they got they're like survivors of the apocalypse down in the outbacks of Australia, except now it's Mandalore, and they're on this like really cool looking, like, I guess it's a skiff, like a sail ship. And I thought,
yeah,
cool. And the guy who plays, what's his name? Charles, the actor name, he plays Warlock in the Maverick film. And he's the leader of this band of survivors on Mandalore. And I thought it was really nice, a nice little touch here. And like, you talk about the armorer, it's like, like with the thing with the armorer, like that you always go back to from the first season, is the fact that she has horns on her helmet, which is a symbol of the Darth Maul sect of Death Watch that happened after he killed Pre Vizsla, played by Jon Favreau, or voiced by Jon Favreau in the animated Clone Wars series. And then Bo-Katan wasn't having any of that shit. So she's like, and then she, formed her own version of the Mandalorians, like the Night Owls, to oppose Darth Maul on Mandalore, including teaming up with the Old Republic and with Ahsoka to take him down, which is in that great, like the closing of the Clone Wars series. Finally, like that those episodes, I think it's like 4 episodes of fucking Ahsoka just fucking coming to Mandalore, and then like Order 66. So fucking good. I just think I'm just like, so good. I'm remembering it right now. Anyway, sorry, diverting here. But we, like, she's got the horns, so it's like, okay, and this leads into when later on in the episode when we see Moff Gideon in his new armor, which we'll talk about when we get to that point. But like, is there a connection? What is her agenda? Like, she's someone we always know, like, has some kind of agenda. You just, I think at first think it's just like she wants to, her sect of Mandalorians, the ones who follow the creed, walk the way to be, and that to just spread. She's a super orthodox Mandalorian, and she wants everyone to be super orthodox, just like her and her people. So, but maybe there's something else to it. Who knows? Like, wouldn't it be like my big guess, JP, is that the big thing is going to be the big shock of this coming, the season finale, is she's going to take off her helmet.
Yeah.
And say, ha, I fooled you all.
Entire time pretending to be Mandalorian. But like you, I thought like she's a zealot. So this has always been like the motivation for behavior. That's why there's kind of rigidity and everything else. This felt like something that, like, at this stage, you're like, oh, okay. You wonder what's going to happen. I mean, part of the other thing as well is that Bo-Katan explains about Moff Gideon was offering to spare Mandalore in exchange for the dark saber, but he betrayed her inevitably. And at that point in time, she was, the Armorer tells Bo that she'll take the engine up to the fleet when they head out to the Great Forge on there as well. So that's the other bit of suspicious behavior there on there as well. Yeah, and at that point, we've got Bo and everyone heading out on the land ship as the Armorer sets off on there as well. We've got a little bit of kickoff on there as well. But then we have a giant reptile attack, and it forces them to abandon ship on there as well. And there is a fight as well between Paz Vizsla and Axe Woves as well in all
over Mandalorian chess or checkers.
Yeah, they like a fight, don't they? Let's not make any bones on that. It's
they're a warrior, society. They probably will fight over like the last piece of chicken on the plate, right? Who's gonna get that last chicken wing? Oh, let's bring out our vibro blades and just like fucking have a discussion about it with like trying to kill each other about over a chicken wing or something like that. So now that feast, like on the spit roast, like were those the birds that they found?
I did wonder that because I went, all right. I'm also watching Yellow Jackets at the minute, which has got a kind of rather. I don't know if you know much about it. It's got a bit of a.
You explained a bit of it to me.
Yeah, but it
kind of like that film. Kind of like that film Alive, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Always end up thinking of that and wondering how many days would I be before I start considering going down that path.
I think those people only ate the ass, though, right? The ass cheeks. So maybe that's okay.
They don't on Yellow Jackets. It's quite a scene.
Oh, well,
without being gory, it's grotesque.
Okay.
At the same time, but like it's very, very well done. It's very well put together. To a Radiohead song from OK Computer called "Climbing Up the Walls," which I loved.
Nice.
It is very, very good. But yeah, that doesn't happen here. We don't have cannibalism, thank God. Or at least they're not playing it up in Mandalorian. I wouldn't want them to do that in the slightest. But yeah, another giant reptile attack, and then it forces them to go underground into the remains of the Great Forge.
You got to remember, the Star Wars universe is full of monsters. Is like full of let's just call them kaiju. They're just full of kaiju, right? Like because it's not only science fiction, a huge influence on Star Wars, like the world that George Lucas created, but also fantasy. So like mythical creatures and like what we consider, but they're normal creatures here. Like like everything from like on Tatooine, the banthas, and to like the giant winged serpents that people ride. In this, I love it. I just love that whole mix, like this contrast of like high technology and like riding, domesticated winged serpents. I think that's so cool.
Yeah,
I just love that. So, but Mandalore is obviously a planet full of kaiju. Beyond the mythosaur, there's like tons of kaiju on this planet. And like this goes to this point we made of like the where the covert was. It's full of kaiju as well. But that's probably what they seek out, is like because it creates adversity for them to become. It's like the whole idea of like this. What does not kill me makes me stronger. Like so, it's natural selection. Like they weed out the weaklings in their society by like if they can't survive the creatures that inhabit whatever planet they're on, and they don't deserve to live in their mind, right? So it's interesting. I think Mandalore is a planet that created these really hardy, sturdy warriors that are fierce because they survived all these like the natural the habitat of it, but also like including all these fucking monsters that exist on this planet.
God, it's terrifying. It really is. But like you say, it's the iron sharpens iron. It's the idea of being in a constant state of awareness and everything else on here. However, what they don't see is like you mentioned them earlier, the Imperial Super Commandos. They got the jetpack, they've got the Beskar armor on there as well. Axe manages to evade the troopers and heads out to warn the fleet. So yeah, we're wondering about that.
Yeah.
On there. The Mandalorians then chase the troopers into an underground, and we see it, a gigantic Imperial base that they've been using on Mandalore there as well. And then a blast door closes, and that separates Din from the rest of them. The troopers manage to capture him, and out comes Moff Gideon in his own armor and jetpack, bragging about his plan to use elements of the Mandalorians, the Jedi, and clones to create an army to restore order to the galaxy on there. That old chestnut. and he orders his TIE fighters to destroy the fleet. And has the blast doors raised to kill the remaining Mandalorians. But before, carrying on with the rest of the episode, what did you think of this exchange as well, and overall the Moff Gideon plan?
So first of all, like when I realized, oh my god, he's been headquartered on fucking Mandalore this whole time. That's crazy. I think it's like that's also brilliant because it's like he's obviously the one who put out there that this planet is cursed. You can't go there. No one goes there. So it's a perfect place to put like a base because no one's going to suspect that anyone's living there or headquartered there. So then the reveal that it's like, oh, these super commandos, where are they going? How did they get there? And it's like, oh my god, they're stationed there. That's crazy. And these super commandos are also from Rebels. The first time we ever see them, they're actually like a Ralph McQuarrie idea that George had for the original trilogy of like, okay, the next level of stormtrooper we're going to see are these super commandos, which he then just like scaled down to just one person, which would be Boba Fett. And this is how we get, of course, the legend of the Mandalorians, like, oh God, what, 45 years later since Empire Strikes Back. So Dave Filoni brought them back for Rebels, this idea, because like there's like tons of Mandalorian content in the Rebels because of Sabine Wren. It's great. So to see them again, I was like, oh, that's really cool. And this is obviously where, we get that shard of Beskar from the jailbreak of Moff Gideon from that shuttle. So it's not the Mandalorians, it's from these super commandos that the New Republic, because they're clueless, have no idea about that these exist, or that the Imperial remnant is much stronger than they suspect. I thought it was a great exchange, and I thought Moff Gideon's armor is a really interesting combination of like the Dark Troopers that we see in season 2. The droids, the super commando droids that we see in episode 2. It's made out of Beskar, but also his helmet design. This is where I'm referring to, is like he has horns on his thing. Is it going to be revealed that maybe he was Mandalorian? Maybe he was part of the Death Watch that followed Darth Maul? I don't know. Like we'll see. Like I really think that we're going to have a hell of a closing, season finale this week that we'll talk about next week, of course. But again, like just revealing all these things, like I want to take the ideas of the Jedi, which I think is like the Padawan program of like recruiting people into your ranks, soldiers into your ranks at a young age, child soldiers, essentially. I want to take elements of the Mandalorian culture, like mainly their armor, I think, and like they just blend into like it sounds like he wants to create what becomes the First Order, because these are all ideas that are espoused by the First Order in not just the sequel trilogy, but in like books and comic books set in that era. And you learn more about the First Order and like the Resistance, which is not a great TV show. It's okay, but if you like exploring the lore of that era, of the First Order era, like it's a decent show to watch certain episodes of, especially the ones that have like Oscar Isaacs appearing as Poe Dameron, like doing the voice of Poe Dameron in that show. Yeah, and BB-8's a lot in it a lot actually, which is cool if you're a big fan of BB-8 like I am. By the way, on that note, can I just say, please cast BB-8 as Rey's partner in the new movie. That's all.
I think that'll be happening.
I want BB. If no one else, I want BB-8 to return because I just love BB-8. Great droid.
Somebody who won't be returning now, Paz Vizsla, who the heroic death that he would very much have wanted, as Bo-Katan uses the dark saber to create a hole so the rest of the Mandalorians can escape. He goes out and takes on the commandos on there, and he ends up being stabbed to death. It was quite horrific, just like kind of really being like properly impaled on there, and leaves him to die.
Yeah, by the Praetorian Guards, who are like the precursors to like Snoke's bodyguards in The Last Jedi. Their armor is very similar, not the same, but very similar. And then they're basically using the same kind of energy melee weapons that the Praetorian Guard use in the Last Jedi against Rey and Kylo Ren, and I just thought, oh, this is awesome. Obviously, this is like an evolution of the mysterious Imperial Royal Guard that the Emperor uses that we see in Return of the Jedi. This is like the evolution into these Praetorian Guards that we're gonna see have one of the best lightsaber duels or battles in any of the films between Rey and Kylo Ren against these guys that appear in Snoke's throne room. But I fucking loved it. I wasn't really sure what he meant by Praetorian Guard 3. I thought he's talking like about a legion of like troops, maybe, but it's just like these 3 guys. He just wants 3 because it's like they're so highly skilled in combat that they could be, like that they just needs 3. One interesting thing that I thought was really cool is like in the battle between the Mandalorians and the Super Commandos, like, so because they're wearing Beskar armor too, it's like, how can they defeat them? They go all fucking John Wick on them. Like, at least Bo-Katan and Din Djarin do. They know the gaps where to shoot between the armors, like in the neck, in the like under the armpits, things like that, which is very much what John Wick does when he fights like the High Table and forces, both in chapter 3 and in chapter 4. It's just like, I was just like, oh my god, they totally
the image of them in Paris trying to avoid a car chase while holding up their jacket, shooting, trying to get that little point in the neck. Phenomenal.
It's great. I think I'm just like, they must have watched John Wick. Incredible.
I mean, we're going into next week's finale now at this point. A good few questions up on there, like, who are the spies? I mean, are we thinking the armorer and Axe Woves? I don't personally. I think it'll just be the armorer. I think it'll just Axe Woves will turn out to be fine. He feels more like the kind of he's someone who has to work that a little bit harder in order to gain the respect on.
But maybe it's also referring to someone in Moff Gideon's camp that's a spy for Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Yeah,
because I would be surprised if we don't get even like a cameo of Lars Mikkelsen as Thrawn in this episode.
Fully expecting him to appear at the end of the episode.
My things, I think he's going to appear. I also think the Mythosaur is coming back.
Yep.
This week's finale, and it's I think I'm so excited. It's 2 more days for me.
Hopefully, the Mythosaur destroying the Imperial base,
just eating a lot of troopers and super commandos,
going proper like Lord of the Rings.
It'd be great. I maybe like the Mythosaur is like something that eats raw Beskar ore and then shits out metal. So maybe he's just gonna eat all these super commandos and
shits out Beskar.
He just shits out pure Beskar.
Which you have to then quickly take in order to then. Well, he'll need.
They put me in Star Wars because I'd be pitching that. I'd be like, okay, this is how Beskar is created. The Mythosaur shits out Beskar. It's like, no, you're fired.
Connor asked a question. They were thinking, we thinking the Mythosaur being awoken by the Imperial base being built, and hadn't considered the armorer as being a spy. But it feels like that would be enough of a reveal, and whether or not Elia Kane has turned out to be a double agent and in fact is an agent for Thrawn. That's what because I'm expecting this to be next week to be the last that we'll see of Moff Gideon within the Mandalorian universe.
I get the feeling too. Like, some people are speculating we're gonna see Din Djarin die. I'm like, no, you're not gonna see it. Like, if you see something like that, it's gonna be like when Jon Snow died in like, what was it, season 4 of the end of Game of Thrones. He's not dying. Like, I never. By the way, when that happened, I was like, he's not fucking dead. He's coming back.
Yeah. It's when anything goes here, you can bring anyone back from it as well. But no, I'm not expecting that at all. What I am expecting is effectively Moff Gideon effectively end up being almost like replaced by Thrawn at this stage. I think it sets itself up quite nicely.
We should mention that Paz Vizsla is physically played by a stuntman character actor by the name of Tate Fletcher, who he's got that big beard. He's the guy that John Wick shoots in the head in the nightclub. He just pulls his beard down and just like that. He's in The Accountant with Ben Affleck. He's one of the guys in the first scene of The Mandalorian season 1 in the bar that he kills. Like he's speaking Huttese to him, and he's just like, "Is that it's Tate Fletcher?" Oh shit, okay. But he's also physically in the armor of Paz Vizsla, and Jon Favreau does the voice.
It was in Breaking Bad as well. On there, like, yeah.
See, if I'm an actor, like, and I was like, well versed in martial arts, and I'd want to be a character actor like Tate Fletcher or Daniel Bernhardt or Scott Adkins or some shit like that.
I saw Scott Adkins actually, so I was watching Zero Dark 30, and he's in that very, very briefly as well. And I think it's one of the things that's a very interesting. I like this trend of people who are actually. We're seeing people who've actually worked in the stunts and that physical aspect also be able to deliver in a kind of dramatic sense as well.
We need Scott Adkins in Star Wars. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, get him out there as well. I'm more than happy for these guys to be having this kind of big late career revival as well on there. But yeah, it's going to be a big episode next week. I'm expecting this one to be the longest of the series. I'll be expecting it to be a good hour as well. We'll be tying up enough stuff. We'll be setting some stuff up as well, no doubt, for Ahsoka as well at the same time. It feels like there's many different things that are going to be going on with it because it's the Mandalorian so important for Lucasfilm and Disney in general in terms of setting out the I think at times just like the kind of mood music of their Star Wars TV product. I think the Mandalorian, as is their forerun, is their sort of preeminent show, and they want to set up Ahsoka as well and the level of expectation. And I think the familiarity.
You really get the sense from the announcements they made at Celebration that they want that New Republic era is something they are really keen on, really exploring, and we'll see what happens when they do the New Jedi Order era, which is post sequel trilogy. And then also like they are very high on this High Republic era that they're going full tilt on with the publishing initiative and now with the Acolyte. I'm so excited about like okay, let's move away from Rebels and Imperials.
Yeah.
Like we there's 50 years of that plus of that stuff. We can just like leave it alone. It's always there. We can always go revisit that era. Like with Andor, for example. It's you can do shows like that or movies like that. But I want to see something beyond like the Empire as villains. Like, like I'm just tired of seeing stormtroopers as your main bad guys all the time or Imperial people. Like just I personally would love to see like some kind of like corporate bad guy, because I think those are the true villains in the world today. Corporations.
They're the best villains as well, aren't they?
They're
like the ones that seem much more cutthroat. I'm like you. I'm all about the Acolyte. Like that, the one for me. There's a tonal. This is always the thing I like, or you want to see these kind of. I hate to say it, but like intellectual properties, is realize you don't need to have everything done in a formulaic way. When I talk about wrestling, for example, and say AEW doing another 2 hours on a Saturday night, it's like, well, do 2 hours of something different. You already do this. Like, try and broaden it out for the love of Christ rather than make the same thing, which is exactly what they won't do. And I'm kind of a big advocate of, well, actually, you need to take a few more risks. And you see, Marvel does it at times. They don't go into it enough. Like I think for what they could be doing it. DC's a mess in that realm, but you see here at least with Star Wars, and I think the overall kind of timeline being forged is there's like very clear, like, okay, we need each of these bits possibly to look different, and they're much more open to having kind of different influences and different kind of auteurs, really, for want of a better word, coming in and making brave decisions that they wouldn't have done in the past, and that Kathleen Kennedy would have completely turned their nose up at.
I think the success of Andor really opens the door for that, because it is not anything like what has come before. It is such a level of maturity and sophistication that is different from the Mandalorian and things like. And that's not to say I think it's better than the Mandalorian. Like I love the Mandalorian. I think season 2, like in hindsight, like I was gonna say, season 2 is probably my favorite season of that show so far. I like a lot of season 3. There's also like half of it I'm not. It's okay. Like I don't love it. I don't hate it, except maybe last week's episode. I like Plaza, whatever fucking planet, fucking Jack Black bullshit. That stuff I didn't like, but like I think that again, like what Tony Gilroy did with Andor, really like said to Disney, you can have things that are not that's not cookie cutter. That you can have it set into this universe. It can be different if it's good, as long as it's good and it doesn't contradict existing continuity and canon. If it fits in, do it. Let's do it. Let's just try to throw stuff against the wall and just have fun with this and just give fans a smorgasbord of different types of stories that we can tell in this really rich universe, and I think, its success is that it is actually what George Lucas created is like such a rich, deep well of ideas and stories that you can, bring to the forefront and really give us entertainment and stuff like that. So
there's a couple of great comments there. Our friend Rich Fan. Hello, mate. How are you? Although I'm still upset about the West Ham game on Sunday. I'm struggling with that. And he's great point here. Get a Wayland Yutani.
Yeah. So if you read the comic books, there's actually the thing called the Tag Corporation, run by like a succession-like family in the Star Wars universe. Like Domina Tag is the leader of this corporate family that's like really evil. Like she appears mainly in the Dr. Aphra comic book. But you have like ideas. Like I'm telling you, JP, like I'm gonna send you links for like the recent Marvel comic books. They're just so fucking good. The ones written by Jason Aaron and British writer Kieran Gillen are fucking amazing. There's so many great ideas in these things, but like there's this idea of this satellite called the Wheel, where it's just like business. This is where like it's a gambling place. There's also like business is done there. It's a neutral place that the Empire doesn't really mess with this place and stuff like that. It's great, fucking great ideas. Just I would, if I was running a Star Wars show, I'd bring the fucking Wheel into Star Wars live action continuity. You would be seeing shit like this, and like corporate entities that are just evil bastards, like trying to destroy natural habitats and shit like that, because that's what they do in real life, right? So,
oh god, yeah. The easiest. It's always been the idea about corporations. The idea is they're registered as people. In which case, if they are people, then they are sociopaths. Like that's what they are. Like they really are. A couple of final comments before we finish up. Connor says here, I want to see the Old Republic being visited in more detail. Knights of the Old Republic is one of my favorite games.
Great game. Love that fucking game. I can't tell you how many weeks I spent playing, trying to finish that game. And when I finally did, I was just like, I was both sad and I was actually quite relieved that I did it. I destroyed the Star Forge. Oh, fuck yeah.
Andy does raise the point of the real spies were the friends we met along the way. See, very much seems to be the case here this week. And finally, Rich says here, Jack Black's musical number with Din Djarin was WH's favorite part.
No. Let me just tell you, this is I don't know if Benno watches this, but Benno, listen, Rich Fan and I were on the phone last week, and while we were on the phone, this man made not only his accommodation reservations, but his flight reservations to come to Toronto for Forbidden Door weekend. Benno, where the fuck are you, man? You need to join us. And I told him, like, there is possibly going to be a backyard get together. One of our legendary post wrestling backyard get togethers is probably happening.
They get messy, and
Rich is going to be part of that. Let me tell you something, Benno, you don't want to fucking miss out on that, because John Pollock might be breaking out the J.R. Ewing bourbon.
Oh, well, the proper if it turns you into J.R. Ewing, like he really has to watch out. He'll turn proper evil then in that case.
If you know anything about John Pollock, he loves the classic television show Dallas. He's not just sharing this J.R. fucking Ewing bourbon with anyone. He's only sharing it on a special rare occasion, and that's for the people who come visit us in Toronto during Forbidden Door weekend.
God.
Also, we're gonna have a big fucking event, like pre and post Forbidden Door. Apparently, that's all I can say about that. I'll let those boys make the announcements and stuff like
hopefully,
that. Yeah.
Come Wembley, we will be trying to have something similar.
Oh yeah, I'm sad I won't be coming to London for that. Yeah.
And hopefully I'll see Rich when he is over here. I've just completely remembered I meant to reply back to him, but obviously it's baby appearing around the same time. But it would be lovely if we can get a chance to meet up with Rich, who's also in that kind of Arsenal purgatory as well. But that brings us to the end of this week's episode. Any plugs? What have you got going on?
I will have an episode, The Long and Windy Road, the end of this month, the last Saturday of this month. So keep an eye out for that. I won't reveal the guest or the match that we're going to talk about, but it's a fun show. I've already recorded it. I think John and I can do a show catching up on Japanese wrestling next week, and we're going to talk about our impressions about Rebellion then. Together.
GCW Impact, mate.
Maybe, yeah. It. Oh yeah, it's great. It's we're all this like
MLW next. That's the next one.
I mean, John does know Court Bauer, so who knows? We'll see. I don't know.
They should be running Toronto. Everyone else is these days.
Oh yeah, everyone's coming here. Progress did a show here pre-pandemic that I thought was shit. I don't think
they won't be back.
Oh, God, please don't come back. I don't want to see any of those people. Whoever the new owners are. Can I just say, like, I don't think Smallman did a fucking stand-up routine there. I can't remember, but like, he was so unmemorable. You know what I mean? So, like Thrawn. Other than that, just next week we're gonna have our finale. Maybe post Mandalorian season 3. We're talking off air about doing something that we talk about a lot that we'll see depending on your schedule, but I think it would be I think I've convinced you. Maybe have I?
I think you've convinced me easily. Okay. And I also think as well the always on board of this is always getting my better half on board with it. And it was only after watching the Ahsoka trailer and then it was with the boys and it was like, actually we all need to just go back and watch Rebels because this feels like it's the easiest win in the world. Yeah. To be able to binge it knowing full well that it's like, actually, I'm always fascinated to do that if you're watching it with like people of different generations. How do they react to the same thing?
There are honestly, for me, and I know for a lot of fans, genuine like teary-eyed moments in Rebels. I can't say that too much about Clone Wars. I think it's very straightforward, but in Rebels there is so much emotional weight in some of the story arcs and some of the episodes that it's amazing. I do think it's probably Dave Filoni's finest creation as far as like animation goes. I think it's better than, and I love the Clone Wars, but I think it's better than the Clone Wars. And it's something I would love for you to watch. I would love to discuss it with you here and with the community that we're seemingly like growing here on, especially in the live show. So I think, hey, if you guys who are listening to this haven't seen Rebels yet, okay, come on board with me and JP. It's my rewatch, and it's JP's first time, so we'll talk about it from season 1 to 4, including the intro shorts introducing the main characters. Like I told JP about those. Watch those. I think they're all on Disney Plus. I'd be surprised if they weren't. But yeah, like we'll announce. I guess we'll announce it when we're gonna start actually doing it. Yeah, but it's gonna be like kind of our primer for Ahsoka before Ahsoka starts.
Yeah.
JP and I were gonna watch Rebels, and we're gonna talk about it here with everyone after we finish Mandalorian season 3.
It is, and if I end up in a situation where the baby comes early, then I think this is the perfect thing to be doing as a night watch while doing a feed.
It's great. It's an easy watch. It's like less than half an hour without commercials. They're smart. They're, especially when we get past season 1 is good. But like from season 2 on, holy shit, it goes into a different level because you always have to introduce settings and characters in season 1 of any show, I feel. But when you get to season 2 and on, oh my God, Dave Filoni and Simon Kinberg, who's also the co-creator of this show, who's a really well-known film screenwriter and director.
X-Men primarily, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah. He's those two as a team on this show is like fucking amazing. And yeah, I'm excited. Like when we're ready to like schedule this, we'll let everyone know.
Brilliant. Looking forward to it. And you can find all my stuff on patreon.com/grapple. Have a look on the Grapple YouTube. We've got all various videos of us going in depth on AEW. And we'll be doing Spotlight as well tonight for those of you listening while Patreon.
I'm listening to the Pillman show you did with Maddie.
We've
Simon.
also got
very nice.
I would say watch the video if you can to go along with it until the inevitable copyright strikes come in there as well. And then there's another show that we recorded last night that we're going to be talking about in the pre-show. I'll let you know what it is. It's about the Mega Powers Explode. So it's a trip down.
I think it showed up in my email, my Patreon alerts. Like I think that showed up. The notification for that.
I think that's going to be up towards the end of this week, but that was mad. So really looking forward to recording, to having that out there, and everyone will get a chance to listen to that. But,
listen, I gotta do another show with Maddie where we just talk about why Sting is better than the fucking Undertaker.
I don't. He's a bad man for that. He is. He's not a Stinger fan. Well, he will be when he's at Wembley facing MJF in a title versus career match, which you know is coming, and is, in fairness, quite a brilliant match to do as well.
But you need a British star to headline that show.
He's a British bulldog bollocks, mate. I was cheering on Bret Hart, like I was no doubt. So I was like, I want Bret
everyone
Hart
to be draped in the Union Jack, and just say, God save the king and shit.
Those people who turn up at those events, like all in Union, I don't know. Just don't feel like real human beings to me. It's like, all right, you can get into this stuff a little bit, but like,
you need like
really
British hometown hero Drew McIntyre to sign with AEW to headline the show. He's Scottish, right?
Yeah, his home as he's singing American Pie or another like.
Why don't you just fucking include Canada and Australians in this, because we're all part of the same Commonwealth? Why aren't we considered to be British superstars? We're all part of the empire, or we're part of the empire,
And a very evil empire it was. Right. That brings God save the Sting, as Connor says there as well. That leaves us. The only thing we've got to say is bye there.
Bye there.